Hey, so have you ever wondered why it's so hard to get ahead when it comes to money? See, back in the day, 1910, six of the richest dudes in the world got together on their private island off the coast of North Carolina. These guys were dudes like Nathan Aldrich, who was the Republican whip, chairman of the National Monetary Commission, father-in-law to J.D. Rockefeller, one of the richest dudes in the world. Henry Davidson Jr., he was a partner at J.P. Morgan Chase. Frank Vanderlip, who was the president of Citibank in New York at the time, and he was representing William Rockefeller. Benjamin Strong, head of J.P. Morgan Trust Company, not the bank, but the trust company. Paul M. Warburg, who was a partner in Kuhn Loeb and Company, and he represented the Warburgs and the Rothschilds, the richest people in Europe at the time. See, they all got together, and Paul Warburg was like, hey, so we all make money by buying people's future productivity at an interest rate. And they were like, yeah. And he said, doesn't it suck when we run out of money, though? And they were like, yeah, that does suck. And so Paulie was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could just make more money out of thin air? And somebody probably raised their hand and were like, hey, yeah, Paulie, that would be cool, but wouldn't that inflate the currency and make all of the dollars worth less? And Paulie was like, yeah, well, we'll just raise interest rates if that happens. Everybody was like, yeah, that sounds pretty dang cool, Paulie. What are we going to call this thing, though? And then Paul was like, hey, we'll just call it the Federal Reserve Bank. Everybody kind of got deflated and they were like, oh, man, so it's going to be an institution of the federal government? And then Paul was like, nah, it'll be a private thing that we control. Well, if it's the Federal Reserve Bank, then are they going to have reserves? And he was like, no, they're not going to have reserves. They just make more money when we run out. Then people were like, oh, okay, but it's like a bank. And he was like, no, we own the banks. This place is just going to be the head of all of the banks of all of the world. And then we're like, well, are they going to help out the little banks too? And he was like, nah, just us. Years later, we also have things like the FDIC, which bails out big banks whenever they screw up and don't manage their money effectively. President Nixon essentially figured out what they were doing in 1971, took everybody off the gold standard because we essentially had too much money in the world and not enough gold to give it back to people. So at the end of the day, every time you borrow money, what you're essentially doing is you're selling your future productivity for fake money. Don't sell your future productivity for fake money, guys.